So it's gonna be intimate, y'all see. Most of y'all know me, some of y'all don't. I'm Derek. I own a production company. It's corporate, commercial. We do music videos, and then I have another company where we do film, reality, narrative TV, stuff like that. We're going on 6 years now, and seeing a lot of success. And I started off really doing stuff like this. I didn't know anything. I was shooting like little basketball videos. If you could tell, I'm pretty tall. I played basketball. I would do like highlights, game film. I was doing like 6 games for like 250. I didn't know. I just picked up a camera, but after a while, I was like, okay, let me invest in a business coach that can really teach me something. I spent like $3,000 randomly after I finished playing basketball overseas, and I just took a risk. The guy gave me an Instagram ad, and I was like, you know what? I know somebody's shooting these amazing Super Bowl commercials I'm seeing. They're shooting like these videos look crazy. Like somebody has to be doing some high level work and getting paid pretty well. So I jumped on the call with him. Everything was super genuine. Like he was just telling me a lot of the struggles I resonated with. I'm like, yeah, like let's do it. And it's been up ever since. So I definitely, y'all are in the right direction. Just coming to learn everything like that. So today, pretty much everything's as you saw, it's all about storytelling intensive. And my focus for y'all is really just getting the most out of your camera, visuals, different things like that. And I want to start off how I know you said you got a Canon. What cameras do we have in here? And what's your name, by the way, in the green? Right here, yeah. Your phone. What's your name? Angela. Okay, cool. You got a camera, Keisha? Panasonic. And you got Sony A7 IV. Okay, cool. Nisha, you got what? You Sony? Which one? You get A7 III FX3, and then you got cameras too. Okay, Sony, dope. That's good because we're gonna go through a lot of that. So, as y'all know, some of the main things like how do y'all feel about just really the ins and outs of exposure, aperture, shutter speed, frame rate, stuff like that? Y'all feel like pretty confident in like understanding all of it? Y'all can. It's interactive. Y'all can say yes, no. Yeah. No. Oh, so we got no. Yeah. Yeah. Kinda. Okay. Okay, dope. So we're gonna go through that. Like these are the most essential, right, when it comes to really just breaking down your image, right? Exposure, as y'all know, is really all focused on lighting, right? All of these can affect lighting though, and I know that gets confusing. We're gonna go through that. So exposure is the most important. These two are the most important when it comes to lighting and everything, right? Then you got shutter speed and frame rate. So we're just gonna break that down. When you really get into it, right? And just understanding this is more so what I'm teaching you on the cinematography side. But if you want to be a director, producer, it's good to know this stuff so you know what to when you're hiring. If you want to own a production company, when you're hiring, you can ask these questions like, oh yeah, what settings you using or whatever. So kicking it off right with exposure. Okay, as y'all know on the cameras, you see it's ISO, exposure, different things like that. The phones have it, so we'll go through that. When you hold down on a phone, right, you see that little sun come up. That's iPhones or Android's exposure. The higher you get, right, when you go through exposure, the more sensitive your sensor gets. That's the phone, that's the camera, anything like that. Sensitivity means noise, and we don't like noise at all. Right? It doesn't look good, and it gets really difficult when we're trying to edit and everything like that. The lower you get, right, the less sensitive the sensor is, and you have a lot less noise. I know all of y'all know about native ISOs, right? Maybe you know what a native ISO is. So a native ISO is right the ISO, the exposure setting that your camera operates best at, right? So it's usually higher end cameras that have it, but most even lower level cameras, you're gonna do ISO 800. So that's where you want to be to get the most out of your camera, right? It's gonna perform the best, the less noise, the least amount of noise and everything. So that native and lower is gonna be the best. And then some cameras have like the Sony's, they got dual native ISO. So a lot of times, I think the FX3s, they're 800 and 12,800, right? So you can bump all the way to 12,800 on a Sony camera, and you're not gonna have noise. That's why the new Sony Venice 2, a lot of people are using Sony's right now is great for indie filmmaking when you don't have a ton of lighting and everything like that. So This is what you want to focus on when he's like, okay, I'm adjusting lighting. You want to try to shoot at that native as much as possible. Then adjust your lights, adjust your aperture, everything like that for that exposure. So let's say you're shooting with Blackmagic. Some of the younger ones are like 400, Sony's at 800. So I'm gonna set it to that ISO and then try to work from there. So that's how that exposure works, right? That's super important. Now moving on to aperture, I'm pretty sure you've noticed it affects just how much light is going into the lens or not, right? So you got f1.8, and I can't tell if y'all can really see this, but obviously this is like some of the first things y'all notice when you are working. Even the phones have it. Okay, you got the blurred background, and then you have, the higher you get, right, the larger the number, right, you get less black background blur. Let's see if this person's coming inside. You good? You can come on in. You got two seats here. What's your name?
Anya.
Anya? Did I say that right? I'm Derek. So it's real intimate. I'm talking to everybody, so you can ask questions whenever, stop me whenever. What camera? Do you have a camera already? You use phone? Okay, perfect. So we're going through that too. Which y'all have, and you say you use your phone too. You have iPhone? Okay, perfect. I'm gonna show y'all some apps that we can use to like really get the most out of your iPhone and everything. But so aperture, right? Obviously, the lower number you get on this, so you'll see it on just general stills cameras, right? It's called an f-stop. You start working with cinema cameras, it's called a t-stop, different things like that. These are all measured in stops. I won't go that deep right now, but you got like, exposure meters and lighting meters that can really tell you exactly where to be. But let me ask y'all this. So when you first start, you probably got the kit lens. You probably using like f4, anything like that. Do y'all mess with the aperture when y'all are shooting at all? Like, do you know how to properly, when I want to use this certain aperture or that certain aperture, do y'all know at all? Yeah.
Like basically just like moving up and down while changing the shutter speed to pick out which shot I actually like the best.
So you're using it for lighting?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? What you use it for?
I use it for lighting.
For lighting? Okay.
Depth of field a lot.
Right. So what he just said is depth of field. That's really what you want your aperture to be. Now it can be for lighting, right? That's why we use prime lenses. So who knows the difference between a prime lens and a zoom lens, everything like that, right? So you got mostly the most well-known lens is like the 24 to 70, okay? Then you have prime lenses, 24 to 70s, they might go like f4, f2.8, so they don't get as much light, okay? If you go into a prime lens, it's gonna go down to its f1, right? And then you'll get more light going into that lens. So that, you know, that aperture is opening up and then you close it down, you're letting less light in. So with the phones, right? What I was telling her earlier, the phones, if you click, you hold the iPhone, right? You hold a certain spot, you'll see the sun and the line pop up. You want to adjust that. And when you're shooting in like portrait mode, and I'm gonna show y'all the app right now. Actually, go ahead. I'm gonna have the iPhone people go ahead and download this app right here. It is. Let me just pull it up. It's the Blackmagic app. It's free, and it turns your iPhone into y'all. You really all can download it. If you have an iPhone, is dope. So it's called. Let me show y'all. Hold on. 1 second. It's Blackmagic, but it's cut off on my screen. The Blackmagic Cam, yeah. So if you download that app, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about, and that's gonna turn your phone into like your literally a production camera.
Is the icon blue?
Yep, it's a little blue camera, and it'll look pretty much. You can turn it sideways, and it'll look like this. And depending on what iPhone you have, it'll shoot like flat ProRes. It can shoot with full color or but it turns your phone into a Blackmagic camera, right? So there's a lot of people nowadays who are shooting podcasts on their phones. You can shoot literally anything on the phone. You got the lights and all that stuff, like is really dope. And a lot of stuff I'm talking about right now, you can control that in this app, which you can't normally control in the actual, just the iPhone photo app. So let me know when y'all get it. So that way we can be on the same page and kind of walk through some of this stuff. I actually want to just do that, make that interactive, because it sounded like a good amount of y'all are using some of these tools a little bit wrong, but you're not completely incorrect. So just let me know when everybody got it up. Just say done for me if you got it. Done, done. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. So a couple things, right? As we know, and I'm just talking, y'all kind of catch up as you go, but I'm gonna just go ahead and mirror my phone to the TV. If it'll let me, I'm already connected right here. But yeah, we'll make this really interactive. So, all right. Should let me go to garage. I would hope so. It's not pulling up just yet. Yeah. It's not letting me pull it up on the. I wanted to try to share my phone to the screen. It's not gonna let me. Okay, that would have been cool. I'll just talk y'all through it. But some of these things I'm talking about, you can just, huh? Oh, it's letting you. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, it's not turning with me though. Let me see. There we go. All right, cool. So let's pick on the one right here. All right, so y'all see all the phones have different focal lengths, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit too. Obviously, we can zoom in, different things like that. Right now, it's on full color. Okay, so different things we want to do, right? And we're gonna talk through a couple different things. So we're gonna jump into frame rate real quick. All right. So what do you like to shoot with your phone?
Me?
Yeah.
I like to shoot scenery or when I'm talking, like TikTok.
So like talking heads and scenery, and that's what it. It starts with a K. Your name in the green. Yeah. Wow, I'm way off. Angela, my bad. Okay, Angela, and you say you like to shoot what mostly? Talking head. Okay, so as y'all know, Instagram loves 30 frames a second. TikTok loves 60. So if y'all using social media, different things like that, it's not gonna hurt you, right? If you use 24, 30, 60. One thing about 60 frames, right? It gives you the most information, right? The most frames per second. So you can always remove frames. You can never add frames that weren't there. So just know that if you want to, really optimize for different platforms and such. All right. So right now, as we see, the biggest things, right? I'm tapping, is focusing different things. If you see right now, right, I can focus on Chris back there, let me focus and everything like that. Now, this shutter, if I'm shooting 24 frames a second, who knows what my shutter speed should be? 50, right? So usually, right, in the most basic settings, you want your shutter speed to be double, right, whatever your frame rate is. So right now I'm shooting 24. I want that shutter speed to be, it went to 1/30. I want that shutter speed to be, right, double that. So this is for the most baseline frame rate, motion blur, stuff like that. Now, if I'm shooting, right, 30 frames a second, I'm gonna bump that up to, right, 1/60. If I'm shooting 60 frames, I'm gonna bump that up to 1/20. That's for basic. Okay, so right now, let me control ISO. I'll let y'all kind of go through this. I'm not going to, dive in through everything, but this is what we're working with here. Then white balance. So what we have is you want to change it for different settings. So right now, to keep it rather blue, would you say this? I know this screen doesn't look exactly like you guys' phone look right now, right? This is, it's distorting it, and that's one thing that we'll have to talk about in future settings. But you want to change, you can kind of see it a little bit. It's getting warmer with the white balance, it's getting cooler. So that's things you want to be able to control. But I just wanted to show you guys this on that phone app. Like I said, all these things that I'm teaching you right now, we can go change the ISO, we can change the white balance, and it turns your phone into like a legit camera. And you get everything like, you can go in the settings, you can change right now, the codec is 8.265. You can take it up to the ProRes, which is dope. That's a really strong file. If you plug your mics into the phone, you can really get a lot out of that. So it'll recognize it, everything. You can like literally, just change everything. It has LUTs, everything like that. So just wanted to show y'all that real quick so we can be interactive. I'm gonna give you this. So jumping back to my computer screen, if it lets you disconnect. All right, so I know we said we're using aperture a lot of times for lighting, right? When we talk about depth of field, let me just make this bigger. When we talk about depth of field, different things like that, you know, it looks great, right? And I'm assuming a lot of us in here really shoot by ourselves. We're shooting cameras with autofocus, everything like that. So it's kind of easy to go f1.8, 2.8, and things will stay in focus. But once you start working with a team and everything like that, this is hard to keep in focus. They're gonna be struggling trying to keep it in focus. So they use these things called like, follow focuses. It's really difficult to kind of track that, right? But if you're shooting auto, that's easy. So when it comes to storytelling with aperture, right? If you blur the background and really go shallow, you got shallow depth of field, right? This is shallow. So that's gonna put a focus on something. You see a lot in film, everything like that, where, that's gonna really draw your attention to that person. If you're doing like an over the shoulder, like if me and this person was talking here and there's a camera over my shoulder, the focus would be on them and I'd be kind of blurry. So that's a nice thing to do. But if you're shooting like environments, different things like that, you're gonna kind of want to open it up towards your 5.6, everything like that. So you can do that in the phone, on your cameras, right? You want everything to be in focus. Or, let's say you're shooting a group of people and they're stacked in layers. If I was wanting to shoot this whole classroom, what do y'all think I would have to put my aperture at? If I want all of y'all to be in focus, what do y'all think I would have to put it at? Yep. So like a f16, f22, right? But understanding that after you have to know your camera, after a certain f-stop, it starts to fall apart. Okay, so you really don't want to have to push here too much. So that's where we start using like ND filters and everything like that. So how many of y'all have gone out to shoot something outside and it's just extremely bright, blown out and everything like that? Do we all know what ND filters are? Okay, neutral density filters, right? So that's what you get those beautiful, beautiful images outside, just like with this, right? They use ND filters. So that's not quite something that's in the phones. The Galaxies have it, but not the iPhones. But that's something that you move in the cameras and you're shooting outside bright areas, you're gonna wanna have those ND filters to allow you to get, right? It's gonna cut down some of that light and now you can still get this shallow depth of field, which, we can all agree kind of looks cool. It's the things that we're used to seeing, right? So like I said, when it comes to storytelling, you just really want to understand what I want to be in focus. And if I have that shallow depth of field, I can rack, right? If you watch the movie and let's say there's a bee coming to fly on this leaf, and there's a woman faintly running in the background, and we want to focus on her because somebody's about to jump out and attack her, right? Those are literally choices as a DP, as a director, that you want to make when it comes to storytelling. So,
Wait for like that scene, right?
mhm.
What would you use?
So I wouldn't quite go 1.8, right? It's always a creative choice. And something like that, if we're outside, depending on what we're looking at, as you see right here, I would probably go f4, okay? So right now, let's say if you can see right in there, that might be where her little strip would be. So it's not that long of a pull, but it is a far distance. So we still got a little bit of blur, right? And as she comes in the frame, I would definitely just be rack focusing her so we can still see that shift and difference. So that shift when you rack focus is really gonna draw attention to what's going on, but it still gives you a nice foreground, something to play with, different things like that. Another thing too, that if you're not gonna rack focus, that people do a lot, is they just set the camera, right? So when we're filming a lot of times and it's like, okay, I want to use a nice lens. I just want to keep my focus here and let them run into focus, right? If it's a moving object. So making all those different types of like, creative decisions. So this is where it starts to get a little complicated, right? So right now we're working with shutter speed, okay? So like I said, with the phones, it's doing this auto for the most part, but if you're using that app, it does change. So we got shutter speed and shutter angles. So what you can see here is really easy to confuse shutter speed and then frames per second. So I'm gonna just start here and say, I think we might all know, I don't know, but 24 frames is the most cinematic, all right? So that's what's being used for a lot of commercials, movies, TV shows, different things like that. We move up to 30 frames a second, that's a lot of broadcast, live TV, your social media content, and then 60s, like more live. And I got some videos that's gonna show you all the difference, right? So remember, shutter speed is the one that you always see the fraction, okay? And as you're looking at it, this is a great representation of like, the shorter you get, the smaller you get, right? On that shutter speed, there's a lot more motion blur, okay? And if you look at what the definition is, right? They're both, affecting just shutter speed and shutter angle. They're both affecting they're both representing how you expose to light, right? But shutter speed refers to the actual time that the shutter is open. So obviously, if there's a lot more, a lot less time in between, then you capturing everything, right? So it's boom, 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 moving really fast. When it's a slow shutter, it's right, it's very slow. So stuff starts to get choppy. You're not seeing everything. So that's a creative decision that we want to make sometimes. So let's say you guys wanted to shoot a scene where somebody's drunk, right? And it's like, oh, everything's blurry. What do you think you would set your shutter to? Something smaller, right? With more motion blur, different things like that. Where it's like a race or a fight, you want snappy hits, right? You're shooting a fighting scene, you want to set that shutter speed to a much higher speed, right? So this is what you see on most still cameras, okay? And like I said, double. So if we're shooting 24 frames, it's gonna be at that 48 and so on. Moving up to shutter angles, which is most cinema cameras, we're gonna want to do 180. It's the same thing as double. So it's called the 180 rule, okay? And here, when you get the shutter speed, that denominator, right, the bottom number is getting higher, it's a faster shutter. But when this number gets bigger, here, there's a lot more motion blur. So let's say if it's 270, 360 shutter angle. So that's the one thing, they're kind of opposite. But like I said, if you're on the content creation side with the phone, you don't have to worry so much about this. But as you get to the point where you're using your phone and you do want to get creative and everything like that, that's going to be important. So the smaller that shutter speed gets, you're adding motion blur. That's all a creative thing when it comes to storytelling. Also understanding that it affects your lens sharpness, okay? So, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about with aperture as well. So just touching back real quick on aperture. Some lenses perform differently at certain apertures, okay? So say for instance, you have a Sony G Master, right? A lot of them are really sharp, really sharp, right? At f2.8 and 4.0, okay? Some lenses, it just depends. You gotta do research on your lenses. When you start getting to 1.8, it gets a little softer on the edges, okay? So these are all things when it comes down to storytelling. Like I said, that's more higher end, but those are things that's whatever lenses that you're looking at, you wanna look up, okay, how do they perform at certain apertures and different things like that? Because it can determine how sharp the edges look. And then when you come into being like more cinematic, that's not exactly what we want, okay? So moving on to that shutter speed, and it's very easy to confuse that with frame rate because frame rate does a lot of the same things. So I'm gonna just play this video. As I mentioned, we got live broadcast and film.
Today, I want to show you guys the difference between 24 and 60 frames per second. I see so many videos being exported in 60 and I want to talk to you about why it's probably not the best idea. Before smart TVs, 24 was the standard frame rate. It's the most pleasing and easy to watch frame rate. What you see on smart TVs is everything exported in 60 frames per second and it looks too smooth to be real. And it's not ideal to the eye in my opinion.
Can y'all see the difference? Can you see it for the most part? You're looking like, it looks the same. You don't see it?
Too unnatural. Sometimes you might need it or want it, but most of the time, 24 is the way to go. Hope this helps you guys and keep pushing buttons.
I'm gonna just play it a little bit. Just focus on one. So the first time you watch this, focus on 60. And then we'll play it again, focus on 24.
24 and 60 frames per second. I see so many videos being exported in 60 and I want to talk to you about why it's probably not the best idea. Before smart TVs, 24 was the standard frame rate. It's probably the most pleasing and easy to watch frame rate. What you see on smart TVs is everything exported in 60 frames per second and it looks too...
All right, so what was the difference between the two? If you could name something.
360 was very crisp.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whether the horse was more fluid.
Yep. So, and that's literally, that's what it is, right? So that's not everything, but 60 is definitely gonna have a lot more frames, right? So you're getting a lot more information every second. So it's gonna be more jittery, crisp. So when you combine that with the shutter speed and you want things to be really snappy and tight, you can have things really crisp. This is not very natural to the eye. Our eyes don't see things at 60 frames. When we look, if you turn your head right now, there'll be a little bit of blur. So we're closer to this 24 frames a second. So when you want something to look natural, more cinematic, you're gonna go lean more towards the 30, 24 frames a second. So just understanding like, okay, if I'm shooting a TV show, kind of like a sitcom, I go 30 frames. If I'm shooting a film, interviews, I wanna be at that 24 frames, okay? And with everybody with the phones, if you're looking, even on a regular phone app, okay, just looking, it's gonna default a lot of times. You go to video, it'll default to, depending on what your settings, it may default to 24 up here, you can change it to 30, 60, different things like that. So you can control frame rate just in the actual just regular phone app. And you can control whether it's 4K, 1080. You always want to be able to shoot 4K. It's gonna give you the most information. So that's how you using frame rate. And another way you want to use frame rate is being able to slow things down. So if you have all this information, you can slow it down and it'll look very smooth. So I'm pretty sure we all know what B-roll is, right? What do you want to shoot your B-roll in? What frame rate? 60. Always?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I like to.
Right? So for the most part, you're gonna want to shoot your B-roll in 60 because it lets you slow it down. If I'm shooting somebody dancing, anything that's, and what B-roll is, it's like, okay, if somebody's talking, I'm cutting away to somebody opening a car door or a different action like that, or, you know, people hugging, high-fiving. I want to slow it down and, you know, I shoot it in 60, I'm gonna slow it down and interpret it, right, in my timeline and different things like that in 24. So it's always gonna get exported as 24, not always, but if I want it to be, right? But I shoot 60 and slow it down. But if I'm shooting something like a commercial, it's really all about storytelling, which is what we're talking about today. And commercials, a lot of times you'll see they're not slowing down their B-roll. If you go watch a KFC commercial right now, State Farm, even though they show somebody crashing into a car or anything, it's shot in 24 frames, right? Because it's just a higher end feel. It's all about creativity. So like understanding that, and we're gonna talk about that next when we really, all right, now we know all these settings, how do we really use it when we're trying to tell a story? But just understanding, okay, a lot of documentaries, they're gonna shoot their B-roll in 24 frames. It really depends on the story you're trying to tell. If I'm shooting something more high-paced, energetic, I want that B-roll to be in 24. If I'm shooting a dance recital, a sentimental moment, I'm gonna wanna slow it down, okay? You know, and cameras nowadays, it gets more than just 24, 30, 60. We go up to 120, 480, some 1,000. You know, if you're doing a product shot and there's water or explosion going off, you can get all the way up to 1,000 frames per second. It's just all the information per second. So just kind of understanding that in your storytelling, even the phones right now. So for my people with the phones, iPhones, they let you shoot up to, I want to say 240. So if you go to settings, right, you can shoot some amazing slow-mo with the iPhones. I love it. So you go down to your camera settings, right, and it says record slow-mo. So I have a 15 Pro Max. So I can get all the way up to 1080, right, which is still pretty solid at 240 frames a second. So I can slow some things down really well. For my ladies, if y'all want to do a catwalk or anything, shoot it in 120. I promise you it's going to look buttery. Do a little spin, all that stuff is going to look buttery. So you can get that right from the phone, which is crazy nowadays. They're just getting better and better. So let me go back to, so looking at that, right? Does all that make sense? I know that's a lot of information. I know, I'm gonna send this out. I got the recording, everything like that, but that's super essential to really get the most out of your camera. So once it comes to being able to storytell, it's like, you know, whether you're a content creator and you just want to do a day in the life, instead of just having this shaky little thing, like you can really dig deep and say, okay, now I got my vlog. Yeah, I'm talking at 24, but I'm going to shoot, you know, me going into Target at 60, slow-mo, different things like that. So all of that's going to be storytelling. So now we're just going to watch a couple of videos and like kind of point out some of the things that I'm doing. Any questions before? That was like really technical. Now we're going to get more creative into the storytelling. Any questions on the technical? No? Cool. All right, so we're gonna break it down. Like I said, as I mentioned earlier, there's not a type of content that I don't shoot. I don't shoot adult films. That's the only thing I don't shoot. But events, music videos, commercials, everything like that, I shoot. So.
My bad. One question. So ISO, right? Brightness. That's really what you care about for ISO. And then for aperture, it's just depth of field only.
It's not depth of field only. So if you're shooting an event, let's say you're doing photography or video, and you know it's gonna be dark in there, you're gonna wanna go get a prime lens because it can take you down to that 1.8 and you'll get more light. So it's like, all right, you can push ISO past 800 and be fine. So it depends on the camera. I'm usually, 3200 is the furthest I wanna go. If I got a Sony, I'm gonna go 32. It depends on the camera's dual native. If I got an FX3, I might go to 12,800, and you're gonna make your events look crazy good, right? So, but if I'm shooting an event and I don't have a Sony, let's say I have the Canon like you, right? I'm I'm gonna go get a prime lens, maybe a 35, right? So I can get close up on people and it doesn't look too crazy, doesn't distort them, but I can still get wide shots. And that's gonna be a prime lens, which would take me to like a 1.8 or something to get me a good amount of light. That makes sense? But it's still depth of field, like just having that crispy, blurry background, stuff like that. And prime lenses are usually sharper, so you get more image quality. The lenses, it's like they don't have to put much work into the glass, right?
You prefer that than the 50?
What's that?
Than the prime lens?
So they're all like different focal lengths, right? And I think you, Nisha, you were gonna go over focal length a little bit, right? The shot composition. I can touch on it depending. I don't want to go over too much, but we'll get into focal lengths because that's a big part of storytelling too. Like, so 50 millimeters is like kind of very similar to what we see as humans in the eyes, but you know, it's all about just depth of field. You know, even kind of looking at the aperture, you'll see more blurred background if you shoot with an 85 millimeter, right? And it's like, let's say the camera's back there and we're shooting Angela. Hey, got it right, right? So the camera's shooting this way and we got an 85 millimeter. The more space you have behind you, that's why a lot of these big documentaries and big films, they're choosing the biggest room they can find. Because if you put the camera here and a person here, everything behind is gonna look so blurry. It's gonna look beautiful. You get bokeh, everything like that. So that's a focal length choice. And like I said, I'll touch on that, but I just want to jump into here and tell me. So tell me, actually, I want to take a second. What's everybody's goals in here? Like, what are your goals with the camera? I'll start with you.
Just basically get more efficient with the settings and everything you teach them. Just getting to know it more and hear it more often.
And then once you are good at it, then what?
Oh, I
What
also
type
want
of
to teach it. I also want to be able
teach
to
it?
teach it to other people.
And what type of content?
Like after school programs, like for like middle school, high school kids, like be able to just do like a quick like summer program that teaches them photography, or even if it's a course in class, because I think that's gonna be around forever. And if you learn shutter speed, aperture, you're gonna know photography forever, no matter what kind of camera.
Yeah, this all converts to photography as well. So yeah.
I'm glad it's on the phones too, because anybody can pick up and learn it now. Once you learn these skills.
What about you?
I want to show it better on camera with my content. I want to be able to be more consistent on my posting.
Okay. I know, Keisha, you shoot films and write for films, but
yeah, so I'm not too like savvy with the camera itself.
Mhm.
I do a lot of pre-production and like actually like producer side of production. And, yeah. So, but I do want to understand more about the camera itself and collaborate better with DPs, directors, stuff like that. I feel like it'll help the overall production if I know more and I understand more.
and then Angela, what about you?
Since I do like content creation, like I want to just show it visually better, work on like the camera, lighting. But my long-term goal is I want to get into documentary filmmaking.
Oh,
So
okay.
I want to just be able to learn like just the stuff around this, like how to work the camera and things like that.
And Chris, I know you got your own clients and stuff, so just getting better for them.
Tell their stories with the camera.
Dope. So we go. Right. Yeah, so that's really it. Focus, like I said, start the ISO, the native, and then adjust your aperture. And you know, depending on what you're shooting at, the shutter speed and frame rate gonna work hand in hand. So it's like those three segments together. So just looking at this was an event. So these are all different. Some of these, so this one I was by myself. This one I had a crew of like 4 to 6 people, and this one was like 8 to 12 people. So we'll see kind of some of the difference, but the main part is kind of how we crafted it. Hopefully
You feel that, right? You feel that energy? We are one. One love. One life.
All right, so I'm gonna stop there. What frame rate y'all think I shot those first few shots in? 60, all right? Why do you think I chose to shoot 60?
They're moving a lot.
Hmm?
They're moving.
They're moving.
And it's B-roll.
You know, slow it down.
Yep. But what about, how do you feel? Like, what do you feel when you watch this, right?
You feel that, right? You feel that energy? We are one. One love.
it's like a build-up, right? So you want it to be slow. You don't want it to be fast. Okay.
I don't need no negativity around me. High frequency. I'm talking high G-O-D. Good energy. I don't need no negativity around me.
And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I am thankful for you because you allow me the opportunity to demonstrate my service to God. I'm breathing in peace. I'm exhaling anxiety.
All right, so real quick, what are some things that stood out to you in some of them shots? Anybody? Lens flares, you said? Lens flares, what else?
I like that lady. That like that really cinematic look. You really, it was afterwards. No.
Here?
Keep going towards the other side.
Okay. This one?
I think after her. Yeah, that one like right there.
Oh,
Green.
right.
You feel that right?
I like that.
I am thankful. My service to God. I'm breathing in
So I'm gonna
peace.
just break down a few things. I'll let you see it.
I'm exhaling anxiety.
All right, so there's a few intentional things that y'all probably don't realize I'm doing it, but I was doing it very intentionally when shooting this. All right, one thing is composition, okay? So focusing on her, I wanted to put her on what we call like the left third. So the whole camera's broken up into thirds. If you ever put a grid on, it would be 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So when it comes to, focal points with people, talking heads, you always want to put them on that intersection of thirds. But focusing on storytelling, like showing, okay, how many people there are. What's up? We got one more spot for you right here. Focusing on where the people are, just all in with their hands up. I'm like, yo, this is gonna be a dope shot, okay? And I was outside, so I was able to boost my aperture. That's the beauty of being outside, right? You can boost your aperture. It won't get, it won't get too dark and everything like that. A few other things, right? Nisha pointed out lens flares, okay? So that's something that's just, once you really start becoming a camera geek and all that, right, you'll just love it, right? So when you point your lens directly at the sun, you'll get what's called lens flares, light flares, everything like that. It just looks nice. We don't know why. It just looks nice, right? And another thing that's done here, okay, when you are shooting, so if you're shooting an interview, anything like that, if you're gonna stand right in front of a window, it's gonna be very bright, right? Especially in the middle of the day, it's gonna be very bright. You have to expose for that. So let's say I wanted him to be, he looks really dark, right? He's silhouetted, that's what we call a silhouette. He looks really dark, but it's kind of nice, right? What we first think to do is like, okay, I'm shooting a person, let me expose for them, let me light them and make sure we can see them really well. If you were to do that, this would just be pure white and it would look bad, right? The back would be it'd be blown out, it'd be overexposed. So what I do a lot of times, and this is what happens if you're shooting a talking head, anything like that, expose for the bright lights behind you. So if you're shooting against a window, anything like that, expose for that. So that's what I did. I exposed for the sun. We can still see the lens flares. He's dark and silhouetted. That's nice. Now, if this was inside, this was an interview, I would still expose for this, but I would turn on as much lights as possible so I can light him as well, and my back wouldn't be blown out. So that's a lot of things that like new shooters, what they'll do is, they'll just expose for the person and the window just looks bright. That's how you can tell the amateur, it's like, their windows are too bright. They didn't have enough lights, or they didn't know to do the silhouette here, different things like that. So that's something that feels nice. Rule of thirds, right? Obviously, they're not the same height, so you got leading lines here, right? Which is the symmetry. We're creative, so just trying to find there's things that look cool. You got these leading lines here, it looks symmetrical. So that's the shot where it's like, all right, I'll try to center it, get something that looks kind of cool. They all look uniform, they look powerful, right? I'm shooting low, makes them look tall, makes them look big. If I was to shoot up high, they will look small, you know what I mean? So that's all where you're putting the camera, that's all affecting your storytelling. I was going low to make them feel big, strong, see that deep breath. Just another lens flare showing how many people are there. Another composition thing, just her in the center, just looks really nice and straight with people behind her.
Peace. I'm exhaling anxiety.
and I'm gonna kind of dig deep in this, but things that you notice too. So you got visual storytelling, then you got audio storytelling, right? What are some things you don't notice in the back, right? He says, I'm breathing in peace, I'm exhaling anxiety, right? You see that on the camera. So just making sure, and even let's just go back. So we were looking at it visually to start, just listen to what's being said here, right? And understanding that now I'm getting into client goals and what we want, right? If whether it's on my own goals or my clients' goals, this is a retreat. This is a very famous holistic doctor. His goal is shoot this so people can feel the energy. They can feel, they can see how many people there. They can see what they're gonna get and make them excited to want to come back. So off rip, what am I doing? Showing a bunch of people hype, got people attention, right? So that's part of storytelling. If I'm shooting an event, just knowing the event's lit. There's a lot of people there. Make it look lit, right? That's the first thing. Next thing is what are they saying that's important, okay? And with him, he's an influencer, so just understanding, just hearing from him thanking the people is gonna be important, right?
For that, right? For that energy.
First is a song.
We are one. One love. One life.
Those are sound effects I added, right? That's not in the song. So we're still just vibing. It feels good. It looks good. I feel, I feel tropical, different things. I know I'm looking at something holistic. You're vibing.
And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for you because you allow me the opportunity.
Notice I have his voice. We don't see him, but we know he's coming up
my
soon.
service to God.
My bad. I'm talking. Y'all supposed to be listening, but.
And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for you because you allow me the opportunity to demonstrate my service to God. I'm breathing in peace. I'm exhaling anxiety.
I enjoyed time at the beach doing yoga, and it was so refreshing just to be out there in the sun with all my fellow tribe members.
So oxygen is the number one nutrient for the human body. Okay? And it's also really important when you're thinking about breath.
All right, so noticing what I did there, right? I just let y'all vibe out, let you feel the holistic, the energy, dancing a little bit. Then understanding, right? Man, if I'm gonna go to this event, understanding this dude is so dedicated, he's thanking God that he got people there. It's not even about the money. He's like, yo, I'm just happy I get the chance to help y'all. If I wanna go to this event, I'm loving hearing that straight out the gate. And then we got the testimonials and different things like that. So if you're shooting an event, just understanding you always wanna hook, right? I'm gonna hook, show them why it's lit first, and then we're gonna get into a little bit of information and meat for it, okay? Some B-roll, and then kind of finish up with testimonials, more words from the important people, different things like that. And that's kind of how this flows, just showing kind of storytelling, like how the event went, because this still was day one too. So it's still kind of chronological, but also just coming out the gate, just making sure that you're showing all the interesting parts. That's storytelling. He was super hype. Everybody was like, yo, I can feel the energy. Like everybody that was there is like, yo, I can still feel the energy through the video. So that's the goal that you want to have, when you ask your client, what's the tone, right? And that's kind of what I'm going with on the next slide. If you got to answer this for yourself, for your clients, right? What is the tone? What's the theme? What are you looking for? Okay. And understanding that if I'm shooting for these people, it's going to be a lot different shooting for these people, right? It's the music, the tone. They usually like slower. They're getting younger. They associate younger with more hip hop, stuff like that. But just understanding, like, okay, is it comedic? Is it fast paced? Is it slow? This is really about your life. This is very inspiring, motivational. So I'm asking myself and my clients, like, what are your goals? What do you want people to feel when they watch this? It's all about the feeling. That's what storytelling is, right? So, and let's say if he's like, I want people hyped. This is lit. We all get turned up. It's gonna be very different. I'm not gonna choose that music. I'm gonna speed my cuts up, everything like that. So that's why I have like research here and everything like that. You want to really research before. Moving on to something more corporate. This is super standard. This makes a lot of money. I done made a lot of money off video just like this. It's boring, but you know what I mean? Let me let it go to where, let me go full screen. But the reason I want to show you all this, because there's a knack for it. You got to really practice this over time, but we didn't have a script. We didn't have anything. That's where being a storyteller, you kind of know what to look for and how to really, catch people's attention. So for this
If
one,
you're a highly motivated, dedicated, and committed leader, this is the place for you.
What I love most about working here is the incredible sense of community and support. From day one, I felt welcome and valued, not just as an employee, but as a person.
This company always strives for the best solution. It values innovation and encourages creative problem solving.
What I love about working here is that we recognize that good ideas can come from anywhere. We're constantly receiving feedback from both our clients and our colleagues, turning that feedback into new ideas for our products and services.
okay, so if you had to give this a tone or name it like the vibe, the feeling, what would you name it? Corporate, professional, what else? Salesy. Hiring. Right. So so you got to think from a storyteller, especially if you want to collaborate with other people. And when it comes to, I like to associate it with feelings and music. If y'all ever use stock audio or anything like that, you're not gonna really, you can, corporate's a category, right? Hiring, salesy isn't really a category, but you got motivational, inspirational, you got energetic, upbeat, different things like that. So this is more along the lines of like your corporate, motivational, inspiring. So you see the B-roll slow, kind of just, the goal is to company culture, right? To show everybody's like, man, we really feel as a unit, we love being here. And they're just kind of expressing themselves and everything like that. So one thing that was difficult about this, right? None of this was scripted. We sat down with at least 8 to 10 employees and just asked them a bunch of questions about what it's like to work there. And what we had to do was go create that and make that into a story, right? So,
Is there a reason why they weren't looking in the camera? They were just kind of looking off?
right. So that is a creative choice when it comes to interviews. So this was shot with 2 cameras. So but neither one, they weren't looking at either camera. But the reason why we use 2 cameras a lot of times, one, it just looks high end. That's just the industry standard now. Some people take it up to 3, 4. And the reason why they're looking off, because it makes it feel like they're important. It's a stature thing. It's like, okay, I'm being interviewed by somebody. You get to come listen to what I've got going on, right? So they're interviewing somebody literally, like I said, he's looking at Dwayne just answering questions. So it's easy. And that's something when I do storytelling too, it's like, okay, understand it's like, hey, this is like an interview vibe. Somebody's coming in, it's like, yo, this company is amazing. Forbes magazine just came in to interview us, and we just a fly on the wall watching that interview, right? But let's say this was a PSA, and he's making an announcement to the whole company or to the world. We're gonna say, hey, we need you to get a teleprompter. We need you to look right at the people and tell them. So it's like, yo, we love you all. Thank you for being with us all 2024. That would feel weird if he was saying that off there, right? But now he's just saying like, oh yeah, these are my experiences. Somebody's asking him about his experiences, right? So just understanding that when you are going into storytelling.
Those ideas into a better experience for both our clients and their patrons.
The positive feedback we received is really a testament to our team's dedication and excellence in service. It's really also inspiring to work for a company that prioritizes client satisfaction.
Being in this environment where you see everyone giving 110% of their effort to each other and to the client.
Notice just little things, right? I won't get too much into it, but it's audio cuts called J cuts and L cuts. It gets really boring to just see everybody just talking. You just see them when they talk. We cut. Okay, one person talking, we see them, we cut. Next person talking, right? So we use J cut and L cut. All right, so we're gonna lay audio up under a B-roll. It just feels nice. It feels smoother when you can tell the edit, when you can feel the edit, you can see it's like, oh, there's a cut here. It's like you want to be immersed in what they're saying, right? You don't want to feel the edit. You don't want to feel like you're watching something doctored and manufactured, even though it is. And the biggest thing here was like, okay, we're going to touch on these points, knowing they say, hey, we want people to be excited working here. So I'm listening to all of everything they said. We got, okay, teammates, that's good. We love that we are flexible. We get to come in and, you know, work half remote, half at the job. We collaborate, you know, the bosses are great. So just putting that all together and making sure that, you know, there's a great story. So there's that. These both two, those were unscripted. So now we're gonna move into something that's scripted and kind of get into storytelling with that. And this gets really difficult. We're gonna jump into pre-production for this. What I got, like maybe like another 15. Okay, bet. Okay, so let me go into, so this is more on your commercial vibes. This is like the closest is narrative, is a little closer to like cinema, filmmaking, everything like that. All right, so with this one, I'll tell y'all a little bit about it. So some PR rep from 11 Alive News contacted me saying, we found you on Google. I have a client who's a lawyer. We want to run ads for him. We're going to put this on streaming platforms, everything like that. We need a dope commercial. We love your work. We need a 30-second and a 15-second commercial. We don't know anything. We need help with the script, with the creative, everything. We just want it to, he's a personal injury lawyer, right? And he's a personal injury lawyer. He deals mostly with car accidents. He hasn't done any video like this before. And let's jump on a call with him and see what he says. I'm like, okay, so cool. I'm on the phone. I'm like, all right, tell me a little bit about your business, everything like that. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm kind of newer, but I've been having a lot of success. I mostly work with rear end accidents, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. So there's a couple different ways you can go about it. You can go infomercial style, right? You got lawyers who just kind of pop on. They're like, hey, you need a lawyer? Call me. I'm like, yeah, you can do that. It's cheap, cool, right? Or you can go narrative commercial that's more creative, different things like that. It's gonna cost you more. And he's like, no, I want that one. I want the one that costs a lot, like, you know. So yeah, so he's a flashy dude, which this is why I love lawyers. This year I'm literally gonna dial in and work with lawyers a lot more. So as you can tell, right? So what I usually do is when I'm pitching a client something, I put in like standard, premium, deluxe. So we got the standard package is like bare bones. Deluxe is like, yo, this is all the bells and whistles. And just understanding psychology and people don't like to feel like they're being cheap if they come into you for some high end, or like they don't like to feel like they're getting the worst package unless they really strapped. And they're usually gonna go with the premium or the deluxe. That's like sales 101. Like they always tell you, you know what I'm saying? Like if you get the iPhone 15 Pro and then the Pro Max, like the Max is like 1,800, and then they make the standard one. So it's not quite exactly, but it's all psychology. It's like, oh, if you just add a little bit more, you know what I mean? This is what you can get. So it's all about that in video as well. So this project ended up being around like 20,000, which is still kind of on the low end for commercials, but you know, you can still do a lot with it. It's a mixture of narrative and him talking. So
I don't care if his last minute. I've been trying to talk to Shorty for years. Oh my God, slow down! I'm trying to.
You don't have to worry in situations like this. The Lowe's Law Firm is
oh
here to
yeah,
help.
yeah.
Your recovery and well-being are of utmost importance to us. From medical bills to lost wages, we fight for all of our clients. I'm attorney Dwight Deloach. I chose personal injury as my area of practice because I understand the pain and the stress that follow accidents. So remember, if you're not all right, call Dwight.
All right. Okay, so now instead of just him saying, you're not all right, call Dwight, you got an accident, call me, we get to catch your attention, right? We got a guy who's relatable, because one thing about him, he said, yo, my audience is mostly kind of inner city Black people. They're the ones getting a lot of accidents. I get huge settlements with them. It's like, okay, cool, let's make something, the script is kind of relatable to that. A few things that you notice, right? So I want to tell y'all a few things, and we're going to break this down. It worked out, but I hate this shot. Anybody can tell me why? Right, it's all in the way. My DP did not bring what's called a polarizer, right? So what a polarizer does is reduces all those flares. So all of that, you can see straight through the window to be clear. It's not terrible, it worked out. But yeah, that's something like, a polarizer is a lot like a ND filter, different things like that. So
I've been trying to talk to Shorty for years. Oh my God, slow down! I'm trying to.
So how many shots y'all think it took to put that together? Not takes, just shots, like just. Yeah. Right. Right. So we're cheating it. So what we did, right? Here we had a whole crazy car rig set up with 2 cameras, lights, everything strapped to the car. So there's a camera here and a camera here. One was wide and one was tight. We did that to save time, right? Because it was cold outside. We didn't want to be there forever. So one was tight, so we knew we want to have one thing. The biggest thing with storytelling, if you're capturing things, you want to capture it at 3 levels. This goes phone, whatever, wide, medium, and tight. Never just get all close-ups. Never just get all wides. if you're gonna shoot something, you can shoot the same thing wide, medium, tight. It's gonna give you that just dynamic look to your footage. You can have a lot to choose from. So we did that. That was one shot. So we shot his whole script, right? He shot his whole script on this take. He didn't crash here. All he did was hit the brakes like he was about to crash something. It's called cheating. We're cheating it, right? This was a different shot. So we shot this separately, went through his whole script. My DP was actually in the passenger seat. For y'all that don't know, that's director of photography, right? They're the one who controls the image, so everything technical, lighting, focal length, camera settings, right? And your director's the one who's creative, kind of helping choose the focal lengths and shots, but they're really just making sure the story's being told. So we went through his whole script here. Still not worried about the crashing. Here, the camera's just on a tripod, and we just like, yo, just speed up like you're about to hit the car. We'll cut before that. So this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this in pre-production, all right? I already knew this. So I'm like, okay, we can't actually hit a car, so we got to fake it. We got to cheat it. So this is another shot. Obviously, we had to get his reaction. Literally, this right here. How do y'all think we got this shot? Yep. Camera's on a tripod. We just pushed the hell out of the car, right? And she, as an actress, I'm like, yo, sell it. It was a couple takes. I was like, I need you to like kind of bang your head against the steering wheel, like, you know what I mean? Because I needed her to sell it. So that's how we got that, right? How do y'all think we did this with the car? AI. You got green screen. You said AI. You said After Effects. No, so what we did, we used picture cars, right? So we had two duplicates. We had one that wasn't broken, which is what you saw in a lot of the other shots creeping up into the shot. The car's not actually smoking. This is just a fog machine. This is all real live on set. And this is already broken like this. What's something you noticed? Y'all probably didn't pick up on this, which is perfect. Nope. What y'all think? That much damage not gonna come from a rear end. Right? Right. It's like, it's a lot for a rear end, especially seeing how he drove up. Right. But nobody's noticing that. But you just gotta have that sense of like, okay, storytelling, that's blurred out, that's in the background. Nobody's thinking about that much. We try to cover it up with a lot of smoke and him. If you notice, like, it's a lot more jacked up than this. We like, yo, walk around in front of the car so we can't tell, right? And just different things. So you can see there's a little bit of, right, shallow depth of field, but I didn't want the complete blur out because then we couldn't see what's going on behind them. So these are creative choices that I'm making as well as storytelling. It's like, yo, I don't want the viewer to be distracted by what's going on back there, so I don't want to shoot at an F22, F16 and see everything. I want the focus to be on him, but I do want to be able to see them interacting a little bit in the back because that's just going to, up the production value, different things like that. Do y'all think we use lighting on this or no? What do you think we did? Mm-hmm. Yep, so we had a big 8x, right, which is like a scrim. It's a big white silk we put up and a nice strong light over here. This one was actually a negative thing, so it's called what we call a negative fill. Then we had like an edge light to just bring him out more so he pops, right? But when you're doing talking heads, if y'all really want to get saucy, right, even if you're just using lights that you have, let's say I was shooting an interview in this chair right here, right? I might turn off all my lights and use the window light and put a light on this side of me, right? So when it comes to interviews, we do at the base what's called a 3-point lighting setup, and we do the same thing with lighting talent that's speaking a lot of times. There's usually, right, one light. If you're going more high key, what we call really bright, vibrant, more commercial, we're gonna put a fill light here, and then we do like a hair light, right, to make them pop. But a lot of times your key light, right, which is the main light that you're using, you want it to be still fill. So another thing that people do when they first start shooting is like, I need light, right? And it looks very harsh and it looks like so obvious that there's a light there. But remember, when it comes to storytelling, you want them to focus on not it being a production, but it just being an experience and a story. So when that light doesn't look natural, you're taking the viewer away from that experience. So you always want to use things like this softbox here to soften that light and everything like that. So that's your key light. When it comes to if you're gonna use what's called a fill light right here, you want that to be like 50% the strength of the key light in most basic scenarios, right? 50% intensity or use a negative fill. So we didn't do the negative quite here, but you can see a little fall off, and that looks nice if you're getting into documentary filmmaking, more dramatic interviews. For this to be contrasty, there to be shadows on this side and nice lit over here, right? And if we would use a hair light, right? Oh, my bad, I'm probably smearing up your TV, Nisha, but if you were to use a hair light, right, that would make them pop. There's something called being flat. He's a little flat, but there's a little edge on him so he doesn't look washed into the background. Because if we didn't put any light behind him, he would just look like kind of as a part of it. But to make him an emphasis, we use what's called either edge or hair light. So those are things when you're doing like interviews, talking heads, you want to at least have a 3-point lighting setup. And then if you're in a dark environment, like if I needed to light her, that's when more lights come into play. But that's how that goes. Any questions on this?
How does the client say anything about the front shot, first shot, with the windshield?
Nah, because most of the time your corporate commercial clients don't even understand creative, unless they're a much bigger agency where they got in-house film teams or, you know, the marketing director got a pass in filmmaking and stuff like that. They be like, man, what's wrong with the windshield? But for the most part, they're like, oh, this looks great. He never had a video at this quality, so he was hyped regardless. He put so much money, he was just running ads like crazy. So, but you gotta know your clients too. Like I said, 20K for this is kind of still on the low end. If I had more, that's something we really just dove in and spent more time pre-production. This was like a quick turnaround. We did this quick. But like I said, these are picture cars. We actually called a film and TV company that has matching cars where they're one's beat up and one's nice. So that's how that works. But what we did do for this, and I would love to see if I could find it, but we did a storyboard, right? And we knew exactly how each shot was gonna look beforehand. And when it comes to making commercials, you wanna do what's called a previs, right? So what that is, right? You can do it on your phone, anything like that. But if you ever want to shoot something the time is very important and the look of it, there's a lot of people involved, there's script, you just shoot a previs and it looks nothing like the set. What I'm gonna do is just pull out my phone and just run through the script. So I wrote a script and I just wanna show the client, okay, especially when it comes to stuff needing to be 30 seconds, 15 seconds, because you got certain slots. Y'all see ads on Hulu and stuff, you got 15 seconds, you gotta hit that mark. A lot of times we overshoot and now we're at 30 and we only want a 15-second slot. So if I get asked to do a commercial, what I'm gonna just get somebody to record me, or if I got a PA, depending on where y'all at, just run through the script real quick. Just walk around and come some of the similar actions that you're gonna do, and that's gonna help me time it. That's gonna help me send it to the client so they can hear how it sounds and get a feel. It's gonna look nothing like it. People to know, you can explain them like, yo, it's not the set, it's not lit, it's not actual audio, anything like that. We're just doing a quick run through, a pre-visualization so you can see the time and how this is gonna feel when you hear the storyline. So that helps you really nail when it comes down to these spots and everything like that. Now, when it comes to storyboards and stuff like that, do we all know what a storyboard is, right? So you got storyboards, you got mood boards, you got treatments. You'll hear it called a lot of different things, but they're all important when it comes to pre-production and the storytelling. So all this stuff, like I said, we're doing that research. I'm asking the clients, what do you want the tone, what do you want the theme to be? I might even ask them beforehand, like when it comes to music, what type of music are you thinking? Because that's gonna determine my camera actions, right? If you've seen that fancy stuff on Instagram where the phone's like, whew, there's a lot of speed ramps and stuff like that, that's in-camera motion, right? So if I know it's gonna be upbeat, higher energetic, I might start doing those in-camera transitions and motions on set. So it's nice to ask all those questions and understand that beforehand. Listing out my shots. So I'm trying to figure out, all right, we're gonna open up with this wide shot, this establishing shot. The next shot is gonna be him on the phone and then this and that. So I like to plan my edit out before it happens. That's what's gonna make you have the best product. All steps is pre-production, production, and post. They're all very important, but pre-production, in my opinion, is the most important. So you can just know exactly, you know, everything that you need to know. Any questions on storytelling from any of y'all that y'all got? Okay, cool. you also download all of these. If you are into filmmaking, you want to do high-end cinematography, filmmaking, or you want to hire people, these are all great apps, softwares, and websites to have. I think all of these are apps except Studio Binder. All right, Sunseeker, that first app right there. Some of these are paid. I think these top 3, a lot of these are paid. So you can download it. You don't have to pay to download it. You know, it's obviously free with purchases. Sunseeker tells you exactly. I wish I could. Let me see if I can get my phone to cast up here. I want to show it. That would be so clutch. Anyway, so Sunseeker lets you know exactly where the sun is going to be at a certain time. So when it comes to especially like documentary.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. So that's perfect for knowing, like, let's say, like, for instance, I had a documentary to shoot in the middle of Mississippi one summer. It was COVID, so all interviews had to be outside, right? So Sunseeker was very important to know, boom, right, it looks like this. I don't know if y'all can all see that, but it's literally like a little globe, and you can do like a 3D view. So if you point at the sun, you can actually see how it looks and everything like that. But it's important in knowing, one, you got clouds. All right. Also, if you have to shoot all day and everything needs to look the exact same, if I start shooting at 12 o'clock and the sun's here, by the time we get to 4 o'clock, it might be behind the building. So I need to either bring out lights to mimic the sun or different things like that. So it's a great app just to know, one, where the sun's going to be and when it's going to set. Like, it tells me today the sun set at 5:41 and it rose at 7:42. So I can even take it down a couple days out. Like, if I want to go get a sunset shot or a sunrise shot, it'll tell me exactly the time. It's pretty accurate. So that's a good app. Artemis Pro, if you're doing that previs, storyboard, different things like that, you pull it up, it literally mimics any camera and lens that exists, right? So I have, let me just pull it up. The camera I use mostly is a Red V Raptor, right? It's the 8K Red V Raptor camera. I told the lens 20 millimeters for a Picture 25 to 50 millimeter zoom. That's the exact lens and camera combo that I'm gonna shoot with, and it's gonna replicate that field of view. So now I don't know if it's going Canon T5, T1. It is a little higher end as far as that. But even if you just say, hey, for the standard, it's gonna be a 50 millimeter shot, or you can just do it in the phone if you're using the Blackmagic app, but it'll show you exactly how it's gonna look. You can take screenshots, videos in here. So it's great for pre-planning stuff. Really good in film and commercial. So that's what that does. Shot Deck, I love. I'm gonna actually pull up Shot Deck for here. If y'all wanna get some, like, yeah, do y'all know what Shot Deck is? You know, you feel the love. I love Shot Deck. Okay, so, yeah, Shot Deck is just a game changer. Let me see. So what it does, and I'm gonna make sure I'm done in like 5. I'm gonna be done in 5. The thing says my access expired. I thought I updated it, but we'll just go to cool, After Sun or something like that. All right, let me just update this. I don't know why. My bad, y'all. Could have sworn I had updated this. All right, we won't go through this because I gotta be done. But essentially, as you can see, right, what Shot Deck does, and once you download the app, it is a paid subscription. But you can type in any focal length, any lighting scenario, any mood, any movie. It's gonna pull up the shot. So it's great for making like a treatment mood board. It's like, I really kind of want to shoot this shot like with the camera overhead of somebody swimming in the pool. Type that in, they got it. I want to see a woman sitting on a train. I want a close up of her face while she's sitting on the subway. Most of the times they got it, right? So it's a dope way to just look up shots that are very cinematic. These are from all. There's very few, but there's a couple music videos, but it's mostly film and TV shows. You see 1.5 million shots and 7,300 different titles. So definitely another dope tool to have, especially if you're shooting more like cinematic, docu-style, stuff like that. Going back to Studio Binder, it's just dope for pre-production. So more so on the film commercial side, but let's say you're working with a bunch of different people, you got to send out a call sheet, you got scripts, and it's everything pre-production in one location. So you can do your scripts, your notes, all the production contacts, like I said, the call sheets, You can do your shot list in here. It's just a really dope hub for everything filmmaking, especially on the larger scale. You have to keep up with a lot of notes and everything. So highly recommend this for anything over 6 people that's coming to that production. Sidus Link, most people have, it's 2 functions. Most people have aperture lights. I know we all know aperture. This is a great way to remotely control those aperture lights. So saving time, you're on client's money, you're shooting your own time, your own money, you're in a set and you only have a certain amount of time. It's three of y'all, you don't want to individually go change all the lights. You might say like, oh, this light needs to be brighter, darker. So it lets you remotely connect to all those lights. Like I said, a lot of y'all might be using Aperture. Each light has its own apps nowadays. Nan Light has its own app. Ari has its own apps like that. It's great. Another thing that it does, I don't know if you all have seen it, but a lot of times where they're doing the breakdown, right, of the lights. Have you all seen those shots on Instagram where it's like, okay, here's a cinematic shot, then it shows you like this little drawing of all these squares. Oh, there was a light here, there's a camera here, those little map drawouts. That's what that does as well. It's really dope. Captions app is great for, if you see all the little business coaches, influencers with the captions that are like popping up, look dope. This is the best one. The best one for apps. It translates or transcribes whatever you're saying. It's pretty accurate. It's like, I would say 90, 95% accurate. It's getting crazy right now. This also lets you replicate yourself, give yourself an avatar. It'll speak for you. You give it a script and a picture of yourself, it'll make you talk. Like I said, it's the best stylistic captions that most high-end influencers and thought leaders are using. It translates it to Spanish if you want to. It zooms in automatically. It does sound effects, music, AIs. They're doing the most with content creation, talking heads. This is amazing. They're doing a lot right now, AI with the Captions app. So that's definitely dope to have. Any questions on apps, anything like that, softwares? Okay, cool. So just a little plug right here. So we talked about a lot of just how to shoot, how to do everything like that. I do have a course. So I've been business coaching for several years now, and I really break it down on how to get these clients, how to keep them happy, how to start getting more high-end projects. I know some of you guys are just shooting for yourselves, but it really comes down to really structuring your business properly. I'm very big on business. A lot of us, I didn't go to school for this. I learned business. I went to school for business administration. I learned everything from film coaches, right? And just a lot of hours, late nights, early mornings. But you gotta have that business foundation. A lot of people who went to film school, everything like that, they're super creative. They don't know how to make money or manage money. So that's where I start. That's super important. Obviously, high-end production skills, how to close high-paying clients, sales and marketing. A lot of times we hate doing that as creators. Like, oh, I don't want to ask people for money. They said 500. I guess I'll say okay, but I really want it to be 1,500. How do you convince them that it's worth 1,500, right? Talking about that, building systems and predictability to where people can work. You can be, I've had this where I'm in Brazil and there's 3 productions going in my company while I'm chilling. How do you scale and how do you build those systems to make sure that's accurate? If y'all don't know me, you can follow me here at Derek Pope 2. That's 1 R. That's my personal videographer page. I kind of keep it personal, kind of like my public figure page. And then the Video Business Owners Academy, that's where I post a lot of tips and tricks and everything like that. So that's my time. I don't want to, look, I'm right on time. Hey, look, I told you, but I went a little bit over. But if y'all got any questions, let me know. I hope that was helpful. And like I said, Nisha, we plan to do more of these. So it gets deep. It goes deep. So for sure, appreciate it.